be able to see my notes. What's happening? I think the door's not shut properly, that's all. Nick, have you worked out where Kim's game's from? I was right. Kim's game, so that you know, that you all pick up on this one as well. Let's just see. Oops, trying to open it myself. Kim's game is called Kim's Game because it's named after the character Kim from Rudyard Kipling's 1901 novel called Kim. In the book, the hero plays this memory game as part of his training to become a spy. And in the book, it's referred to as the Jewel Game or Play of the Jewels, and it's to test Kim's observational and memory skills. So there you go, that's why Kim's Game is called Kim's Game. I'm actually quite impressed with myself that I knew something from literature. Blimey, that's unheard of. In our passage, it's evening. Actually, I wonder how many of us are super excited that it's going to be as dark tonight at 6 p.m. as it was yesterday at 7 p.m. You know, I like lighter mornings, I have to say, but the darker evenings, they restrict you so much, don't you? You think twice about where you go. That's why we've thought about the light at the front of church. You take a longer route home so you don't take the shortcut that would save you 20 minutes. It really is the dark evenings, it seems to me, that affects the majority of people. British summertime is lovely. It favours the farmers. That's why it was introduced. It's because they could have long, light evenings to get all the crops in. When we were on holiday down in Cornwall, they were harvesting right up until it got dark, and it was like sort of 11 o'clock at night. You could still see the combine harvesters out in the fields and so on. And that's why British summertime was introduced, to give lighter nights. And just as the lighter evenings start to run out, and the farmers don't need to be out so much, they switch the clocks back, so the same farmers get longer, lighter mornings. Hands up if you're a farmer. Oh, what a surprise. None of us are farmers. I reckon that by far the majority of people would rather keep the evenings as light as possible. I would. Anyway, here are our disciples who have just seen Jesus do the most amazing miracle. He provided a meal of bread and fish for 5,000 men, maybe 10, 20,000 or more in total. And as they passed the bread and the fish around, the group sat on the grass. These 5 loaves and 2 fishes never ran out. Big appetites, small appetites, those in the middle are all satisfied. And there was loads left over that they then collected up. Now, of course, we would have got Jesus, wouldn't we? Because we're intelligent 21st century people. We wouldn't have had any problem understanding Jesus. But maybe those on the ground at the time, they struggled. I think in reality, probably we would too. Certainly the great crowd struggled to understand Jesus. They wanted him to be king, didn't they? A military type of king leading an uprising against the Romans. And Jesus has gone up into the mountain alone to pray. And the disciples, well, they decided to head back to the west side of the Sea of Galilee. Some of them are fishermen, and they would have known it's best to fish at night. So actually being on the sea at night isn't such a bad thing. But I actually think they probably would have done it a bit differently. I think they probably would have had a bit of a kit and got up in the middle of the night, so that they're fishing until dawn, going from the darkest part of the night to the lightest, rather than setting off as the sun's going down at twilight and rowing into the pitch black of the middle of the night. There's one thing that's really hard to do at that time of the day, and that's to gauge the weather, especially when you're on a lake that is renowned for storms rolling down from the mountains, from Mount Hebron and others up on the north, and funneling straight down the length of this north-south running lake, a place where fishing boats can be so easily swamped. And then what about their friend? They're leaving their friend behind. The one who was mobbed by the crowds trying to force him to be someone he didn't need to be. They just left him. Well, at least that's John's recollection of what happened and what he felt his readers needed to know, and what Anne read for us. Remember, the Gospels were written for different groups of people by different people. And Matthew and Mark say that Jesus sent them back across the lake before he then dismissed the crowd before going to pray. But, I think it's entirely possible that these different sort of recollections are all saying really the same thing. They're saying that the crowd was dealt with somehow or other. They were dealt with. And remember, we talk about a massive crowd here, far bigger than watch most championship football games. And the disciples then headed back across the lake while Jesus went up on the mountain to pray. The differences in order and perhaps motivation for some of these things don't affect what happened. They're just what different groups needed to hear as the Gospels were written. So the disciples have set off across the lake at the end of the day, leaving Jesus up a mountain praying. And then it hits. They've had this great day, this amazing sort of miracle has happened. And there in the darkness, the storm hit. They're rowing a boat, smallish boats, and we've shown pictures of that, of one first century boat that's been found before. And there they are, the rowing, the steering, bailing out. It's becoming a real challenge. In the darkness, they're unable to see the shore, with clouds covering the sky, hiding the moon and stars that would help them head in the right direction. They are all alone. And the picture up here sort of captures it, doesn't it? You can see the stormy waves, you can see the lightning up in the sky. There's no stars, there's no moon. It's looking absolutely black. They're all alone, and this might have been it. They might not survive. They're tired, exhausted from the rowing, they're wet, they're lost, they're scared, and they're alone. Our imaginations don't have to work too hard to think that they're probably thinking this is the worst storm ever. Maybe you felt alone and as if the sun has gone out, just like Daisy. You're scared and lost, exhausted, battered and bruised by the storms of life. How easily does it become the worst experience ever? And Jesus walked across the lake and came to them. It's really interesting yesterday. Some of the children, as Sue was telling the story, said, "You can't do that. You can't walk on water." But Jesus can, because Jesus is God. He is the one who created all things. I saw, social media is a funny thing, isn't it? If you sort of use your phone and so on, and you tend to find that you're looking at something and other things come up related to it. I I was obviously preparing for today, and I've seen some silly videos that have just appeared on my Facebook and so on. And one of these videos is of there's some centurions enjoying a swimming pool, and there's a character who is obviously Jesus, and Jesus sort of runs to jump into the swimming pool. And he jumps in, and of course he just lands on the water. He doesn't go into the water, he just lands on it. Because actually, Jesus is God and he created it all, and he doesn't relate to the world in the way that we do. So Jesus can walk on the water, even though we can't. But in the darkness they don't recognise him, they don't realise him, it's him, they're terrified. Mark's version even says that they thought it was a ghost. They simply could not make out that it was Jesus to start with. There's a problem with light. Anybody know what the problem is with light? Anyone? The problem with light is that it casts shadows. And shadows are dark places. Elsewhere, Jesus describes himself as the light of the world. That song that we were, I think it was Daisy was in the video. Jesus says, you're going to be in a place where there will be no sun and moon because I am the light. We pray for Jesus to light our path. Jesus shines on us. He lights the world around us. And as we stand with our backs to him, all we see is the darkness of our own shadows as his light shines brilliantly on our backs. To get the most, to understand, to know who it is that says, is walking out there in the storm to us, we have to turn and face Jesus to benefit from the light. It was said in the Daisy film, turn and face me, turn to the light. The writer to the Hebrews puts it like this when he's talking about living the Christian life. He says, we do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus. We have to keep our eyes on Jesus even when life is super tough, even when all your friends are blocking you out, even when it seems like he is not there. Right there in the tough places, we need to encounter Jesus. And then the light of Jesus shines in front of us, warning us where not to tread, showing us the reality of where we are standing, not the shadowy darkness we've been viewing, showing us the way to go and bringing comfort. Along with light, the sun gives us warmth, doesn't it? And so it is with Jesus. As we stand and face his light, we are warmed, we are comforted by his presence, by the Creator. We need to look at Jesus. And if we look and recognise him and remember that he says, it is I, do not be afraid. If the sun has gone out, if your best friend is ignoring you, if you've been told to go to hospital following a test, if life can't get any worse but it feels as if it is, encounter Jesus and hear him say, I'm here with you. Don't be afraid. And the disciples suddenly experienced this calming peace in the storm, and their journey was complete. But it might not be the end of the storm. We might have to keep our eyes on Jesus, remembering to look for the way he lights your path. He removes the darkness. He can show what to avoid and where to place our feet. But remember, the disciples had to invite Jesus into the boat. This heaving, churning, washing machine of a boat before the calm came. Our encounter doesn't stop with looking at Jesus. It involves saying, Jesus, this is what is happening. I'm sad, I'm lonely, I can't cope, I've got no friends, my teacher doesn't encourage me, I can't lose weight, my eyesight is failing, I've got this thing wrong with me, I get teased about my accent, and so we can go on. Please, Lord Jesus, as I stand in your light, please come into the reality of my life and give me peace and calm. And then trust Jesus to do the same for you as he did for the disciples. But we need to do it every day. William Gladstone was Prime Minister of the UK 4 times between 1868 and 1894 during the reign of Queen Victoria. He's one of the greats, but interestingly, he's one of the greats who also lost elections and life didn't go totally smoothly for him. It's said that he had a plaque on the wall of his bedroom, words he read when he woke every day and when he went to sleep every day. The first and the last thing he thought about. They're the words of Isaiah 26 verse 3. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. Storms happen. Who would have believed the nightmare Mary and I had with our new to us car this time last year? We'd stepped out to do what we felt God was saying. Mary was not being paid at that point, and then we had all that hassle with the car. Storms can happen to all of us. They come out of the blue in the middle of the night. But we must keep looking at Jesus. Don't turn your back and stare into the shadows. Lock eyes with Jesus. His light will shine in front of you. Invite him into the storm you are living through. Remind yourself of this daily as you wake and as you sleep. Keep looking at him. We're going to